Hello, this is part 3 of my long distance relationship. So, where I left off was um, me basically breaking up with my fiance because a girl showed me screenshots that he put a frowny face when she admitted that she was gay. So, ever since my son's father cheated on me, I've had really bad trust issues. Um, because anyone that's been cheated on, like, you guys know how devastating it feels, especially when you have children with them, especially when you were very seriously in love with them, and even more when you know you've been nothing but loyal to your partner. So so when I saw that my fiance at the time was disappointed that this girl was gay, I'm like, I'm not gonna go through this again. I'm not gonna be somebody else's fool for the second time. Like, where there's smoke, there's fire. So I broke up with him through a message online, and he tried to tell me that it's not what I thought. That he was too scared to tell me that he is against homosexuality, because as soon as he tells people that he's against homosexuality, people stop talking to him. And he was afraid that I was gonna do the same thing. Um, we were broken up for about a week, and during that week, I was going through a very hard time. I was so confused because I honestly thought he loved me, and maybe he did have strong feelings for me, but obviously he was still scoping out the scene for other girls. And I decided, um, and and guys, like, it was more devastating because I was already like planning our wedding. Like, I had already tried on wedding dresses with my mom. I was telling my family about him. I met his family, and to me it's like, how could you propose to me and do what you're doing? Like, I don't understand. And during that time he would still talk to me, and he would tell me, like, can we at least be friends? I don't want to lose you. I miss you. I miss talking to you. And I really missed him too. And I thought, maybe I was too hasty. Maybe I give up too soon. And and he we came back together about a week later, maybe like 10 days later. When we broke up, I decided to believe him, because during that time his sister, I was friends with his family on Facebook, so it was his two sisters and his mom I had on Facebook. And all his family heard about us separating, and they were like, what happened, what's going on? And so he has what I call a nice sister and a mean sister. The nice sister he's closer to, she's the middle child. So I'm gonna call her, um, what should I call her? I don't want to use their real names. So I'm gonna call her, Amanda. I don't know. I'll call the nice sister Amanda, and I'll call the meaner sister Olivia. So Amanda was really nice to me. She reached out, and she was asking, like, what happened, like, what's going on, like, why did you guys break up, like, y'all barely got engaged. And I told her, so this was like around like late November. I So it was like September I visited him, October, November, it was about to be December, so like 2.5 months later, um, of us being engaged. And I told her, like, your brother was talking to another girl, and he showed disappointment that he found out she was gay. And I asked her, like, but is it true that he doesn't like gay people, or is he lying to me just to cover up his tracks? And she told me no, he hates gay people. Like, he's said it over the years that he doesn't think it's okay. So I am very like pro LGBTQIA. So obviously I'm bisexual myself, so I'm very I'm much more progressive. So Eastern Europe is not the most progressive part of the world, um, as opposed to Western Europe. So he lives in the Balkans, which basically they're, yes, there's people that are gay, but it's very like hush hush, like we don't talk about it, like don't ask, don't tell mentality. And he he himself like never told me about any of this, but like I said, I loved him a lot. I chose to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I told myself, you know what? He's young. He makes mistakes. It's not like he physically cheated on me. So I was basically making excuses for him, like thinking back on it, because I didn't want to lose him. I was investing a lot in our relationship, and I didn't want to give up so so easily, so soon. And I thought, maybe now that he's met me, maybe now that we've physically been together, maybe now he'll be more serious because we've met face to face. Since I'm no longer like online behind a computer screen, like we've met in the flesh. So now that he's proposed to me, maybe he'll clean up his act. That was my reasoning, which, by the way, guys, is not very, it's not a very smart thing to do. Like, don't make excuses when people hurt you. Like, I was still very unsure about everything. Like, so I decided to forget about it. I decided to forgive him. Like, you know what? Whether he's lying or not, I love him. I want to work through it. Maybe maybe that was back then. Maybe now that he knows I won't put up with that behavior, maybe now he'll like shape up. And so we went back together, and he hesitated. He told me, I know I love you, but what happens if I go and my visa gets approved and I go live with you and you get jealous and you just kick me out of the house, and I'm forced to fend for myself. And I questioned it. I'm like, well, are you gonna give me a reason to kick you out? you know? Like, are you planning on cheating on me? Are you, like, I told him the only way I would kick you out is if you were having an affair with another woman or man or anybody, really, because I'm very monogamous, and or you were aggressive or disrespectful to me or my son. Those are the only two reasons I would ever kick you out, or you were doing something illegal. Like, so, it has to be something extreme for me to want to kick out my boyfriend. And obviously he was talking to his family about everything. His his sister Amanda just recently also um, was back and forth about going back to her husband. She's married. Both his sisters are married with children. And the nicer sister, Amanda, she understood where I was coming from because she just recently found out her husband was cheating on her. And you know, she was more sympathetic to my situation, but the meaner sister, Olivia, like, just unfriended me, like, right off the bat. I'm like, okay. So as we were talking, I told, my boyfriend, because I told him, your sister, Olivia, unfriended me. He's like, oh, well, I guess it's because she called me while I was, on my break in Germany, and she heard me crying because you broke up with me. So now she's probably upset because when I picked up the phone, I was crying, and she probably like assumed that you were being mean to me. But I shouldn't have told her what happened. Um, but I'll explain everything to her now that we're back together. And I took his word for it. So we made this deal where we were gonna get back together, but we weren't gonna stay engaged. He told me he didn't like the way he proposed to me because I basically picked out my own ring, and I was already expecting him to propose after we picked out the ring together and he paid for it. So he felt like the element of surprise wasn't there in the proposal when he proposed to me. So he told me I didn't like the way I proposed to you, so I want to get back together with you as your boyfriend, but with with the condition that you let me re-propose to you because like I said, the element of surprise wasn't there. It was very, very expected. And I told him, well, sure, like I'm not gonna say no to that. He said he wanted it to be more romantic, more special. I still had the ring, and he told me he just didn't want to lose me, and that he knows he loves me, and he was willing to work on our problems. Um, so I thought, right. So in December, I went back to see him because I wanted to mend the rift that we created in the relationship. I wanted to regain some intimacy and some closeness that we had lost in November. So December 31st, literally like the transition to the new year, I went to go visit him a second time, and it was so cold, you guys. Like, um, it really was horrible because, stupidly, I wasn't wearing my face mask. The first time I flew, I did wear my face mask because I was very concerned of catching COVID. Well, the second time I went to go visit him, I felt a false sense of security and I didn't wear my face mask. And the day after I got there, I had COVID. I got COVID. I got the chills. I had a low grade fever. I had the muscle aches, the muscle pain, and so I spent the whole trip basically sick. It was the worst. So in December, I arrived December 1st to Belgrade, Serbia again to visit my boyfriend, um, to spend more time with him. It was going to be another week, just a week I would spend there. And guys, the flights aren't cheap. So, like, for me to spend $2,000 just to spend a week with him, like, that should have told him enough how much I loved him. But as you know, like, women shouldn't go above and beyond for a man that's not willing to do the same. And that's another lesson I learned in this relationship. So, and I'll talk more about that later. Um, so, yeah, I spent another $2,000 to see him in New Year's. And this time, when he was waiting for me at the airport, I didn't feel the same. I didn't feel the same excitement. I'll be honest. He was waiting for me, but he kind of had like his hands in his pockets, like very um, nonchalant attitude about him. That it kind of like gave me a weird feeling in my gut. Like he wasn't as excited to see me like the first time. But it was like a drastic difference. Like I understand like, oh, like I'm still happy but not as nervous, but he didn't even look happy. I can't explain it. Like he looked like, oh, I'm here picking her up. Like very nonchalant, very neutral. And I was concerned. I never forgot that. And so I went up to him and I hugged him, and he started crying. Like he hugged me really tightly and started crying because he was happy to see me. So I'm like, I let it go. I'm like, okay, well, he's crying, like because I'm here. Like so he missed me, right? And And so I just brushed it off, and we went to go see his family, and I asked him like, hey, like, is your family mad at me because of what happened? Like, because your older sister Olivia just unfriended me, so I'm getting the feeling that like she doesn't like me very much or she's mad at me. And then he's like, no, no, I told him like we worked everything out and that we're back together and everything's fine. Like my family doesn't hate you, they're not mad at you. And I'm like, okay. So this time that I went to go visit his parents at his parents' house, I made sure to bring a gift this time. I I, I bought these Lindt white chocolate strawberry truffles for his parents, and I gave it to them this time, not showing up empty-handed. And his mom, like, she hugged me. She was very like she wasn't mean. His mom was never mean to me, but I could tell like she had like a little um like doubt about her about me because I broke up with him. And so the thing about Balkan families is they're very gossipy. The family is very intertwined in each other's personal lives, including their marriage and relationships. So uh, his nicer sister Amanda often would tell me, "Oh, like if you ever have any like concerns or issues about our family or my brother, you can always talk to me." And his sister would also talk to me about like her struggles in her marriage, so she would also confide in me and open up. So and when I would visit her, she was very nice, she was very sweet. I never got like a weird vibe from her. But the older sister rubbed me the wrong way when she just unfriended me like out of nowhere, which, okay, I get it, that's your little brother, but I broke up with your little brother because I thought he was cheating on me, which I think is a reasonable thing to do. But later on, did I learn that so divorce happens in the Balkans, but it's not common, and I believe the Balkans has this kind of culture where you're supposed to like it's still more patriarchal. Feminism is not a thing over there yet, and when I say feminism, I mean in the workplace. Women work, but there's still gender roles in there. So women are supposed to be like the caregivers and have children and feed the family, and it has like this you need to stand by your man mentality that yeah, like the Mexican culture has it too. The Mexican culture was very similar to his culture, but I'm more progressive when it comes to those things. And so I felt that they still welcomed me, the family still welcomed me. Um, and the next day, I just spent one night there and everything seemed okay. My boyfriend still was really loving, was really happy to see me. His family was still feeding me. Um, and then the next day I went, he rented out a nicer apartment for us to stay for the week. And the next day is when I got sick. Um, I started coughing a lot. I would not stop coughing. I felt like I swallowed a bunch of feathers and I couldn't stop coughing. And he was really sweet. Like he took care of me. He he made sure that I was fed. He would order pizza. We went to a nearby market, grocery store, and we bought stuff for the apartment to eat and snack on, drinks. And he would make me coffee. He would make me tea. He'd bring me water. He made sure I took like medicine. Like he took really good care of me. And during that time, even though we didn't do much, he like like we would watch TV shows together during that time. Maybe once or twice we went out in the city to sightsee and things like that. So everything felt okay. He was still very like affectionate with me. He was still very loving. He was very caring. took really good care of me when I was sick. So, I decided like, okay, like, we're working things out. And in my head, you're supposed to, like, relationships are always going to have issues, and maybe we just needed to spend more time for him to be more serious about me, like in real life. So, he took me to the airport. He drove me himself the day that I was supposed to go back home. I was still super sick. I was sick as a dog. And I, I didn't feel as sad leaving him this time because I, at the time, was certain I was gonna come back in the summer to see him again. And so I just kissed him goodbye because I was already running late for my flight. My flight was taking off in like 15 minutes. So I had to hurry up and get checked in and go past security. So I left. I left him when they were ticketing us for our boarding passes, and I ran. I just kissed him like a quick like, okay, like, I'll see you later, like, I love you, like, I'll be back, and I'll text you like when I'm home, so you know that I made it home safely. And his mom had given me like his mom makes like these homemade pastas, and she gave it to me to take back home with my family. And it was like very sweet, very generous. And he also had like Christmas gifts for me since we didn't spend Christmas together. I gave him a shirt that says like, I'm just a potato. And I also gave him like these little keychains for like of potatoes that's supposed to have like our initials, my initial and his initial. And he gave me a drawing set, which I still have. So he knows I like to draw, and he gave me like a sketch pad that I still have. And he gave me like a pencil case. He knows I love coffee. He gave me a little coffee mug and Turkish coffee grounds. So I'm thinking, okay, like these are all very thoughtful gifts. I wasn't expecting to get gifts, but this is so sweet. Like I love this. And so I went back home feeling a little better about it. He also, twice when I visited him, he bought me these beautiful flowers with like purple themes because purple is my favorite color. And so I'm thinking, okay, like he really loves me. Like maybe he made a mistake, or maybe he's telling me the truth about, the conversation with that other girl. So, like, I felt loved, I felt like his gifts were very thoughtful. He took such good care of me. So I thought, like our relationship was getting better, but it only got worse. Um, so once I went back home, uh, everything seemed okay for a while, but in March, I had a huge falling out with my mother. My mother and I were never that close. I was actually raised by my mother's mother, which is my grandma. My grandma on my mother's side, she raised me up until I was 5, 6 years old in Mexico. Now, just like a quick summary of my childhood, my mother was always working nights. She she introduced her now husband, but at the time he was her boyfriend, when I was 8 years old. And a lot of other family members would take care of me while my mother was working. So I would go to school, and if I wasn't picked up by a family member once I reached middle school, I started taking the bus in high school as well. So by the time I would get home from school, middle school and high school, my mother wasn't home. She wouldn't come home until like almost midnight sometimes. And um, on the weekends, I'd really just spend it cleaning the house or just washing dishes the whole day, to be honest. Um, when I was growing up, my mother was a very, very, very angry woman. She would easily lose her temper. And I didn't notice at the time, but she was always like mentally and emotionally abusing me. Like she would always make these comments that made it sound like I was just like the worst person in the world. And it took me years to realize that she blamed me for everything that would go wrong in her life. And I struggled a lot as a little girl. Like I can't remember the last time my mother had hugged me. She was never very affectionate towards me. She was affectionate with her husband, but I'm so sorry. It's the lawnmower. Yeah, that's the leaf blower guy. I'm so sorry. Sorry. I live in an apartment complex, so okay. So my mother and I had a very very huge fight in March. Um, it is very hard for me to even like talk about what happened because even I'm still like in shock, and this was like 4 months ago. It's about to be 30 minutes, so I'll put up part 4 in a little while because it is a very long story about what happened to me and how my life just got really out of hand. So thank you for listening and watching until the end. I'll be putting up the next part pretty soon.